Today's podcast is brought to you by ELIC. Now listen, friends, as you know, it's my mission to bring hope to humans all over planet Earth, and I couldn't be more excited about partnering with this incredible organization that's doing that exact thing and actually creating life change in some of the most challenging places in the world, like Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. Listen to this. You ready? You're not ready for this. ELIC is dedicated to changing lives by equipping and sending people to teach English in these unreached areas. That is right. I believe Dios es el mismo en inglés y español. God is the same in English and in Spanish. But guess what? Most of the products and content that people get around the world is in English. And so they provide training, support, and a team of passionate people who are ready to make a difference. So listen up. Whether you're a college student, a recent graduate, or beyond, ELIC has a program for you. For example, they have 2 to 6 week options in the summer that are perfect for college students and recent graduates. So if you're ready to create hope with a global impact, visit elic.org/human hope. All right, Human Hope Familia. First and foremost, I want to thank David and Sissy for being here. Just say hello to the Human Hope family.
Hi.
We are so glad to be here.
Oh,
Any opportunity to hang out with the two of you is a win for us.
Hold on, the two of us? That means there must be somebody else on this podcast.
Yes, you dragged me in.
I did. Ladies and gentlemen, your favorite podcast guest is on as a co-host today, Heather.
I'm here.
Thanks for being here.
Yes.
What did you say in the as you walked in? You saw the lights and the cameras.
Well, last night we had a very epic rain delayed Taylor Swift show and got home and in bed at 3.
Ooh.
And so when the alarm went off this morning, I had to come with you to this recording because of car situations. And anyways, I literally still have Taylor Swift rain drenched hair. I literally rolled out of bed, not expecting, like I'm just coming here to bring you to the office, not be on a podcast. So,
and then I just asked
and
you
it's
to be on the
recording.
podcast.
So that's awesome.
We are recording. So David and Sissy, you've been on the podcast before. Have both of you been on together before, or maybe just? I think I've just had each of you individually.
Yeah, because we were on theirs together, but not on yours together.
That's
right.
So
that's fun.
We have sat in front of microphones in various situations.
We have.
Just not in this configuration.
Just not in this configuration, which I think could maybe bring out a little different conversation than maybe we've had before.
Yeah.
It is Mental Health Awareness Month. And that is something that you two are very aware of because, well, not only do you love people that are walking through things, but it's your job to be aware of it. So why don't you guys first just let us know kind of what you guys do, how it coincides together, and then what it looks like kind of separately in the entity of raising boys and girls.
So I am Sissy. This is David, obviously, and we've been counseling together at a amazing little place called Daystar Counseling. For David, you've been there since 1997, and I've been there since 1993.
It's amazing.
So you were 3 years old, David? When you
3 and 4 when we got going.
We were, yes. So we have gotten to do this work together for a very long time and feel very privileged to get to sit with amazing kids and families every day. And out of that, we get to travel and speak and write books and have a podcast and do things like that. We used to call ourselves the Donnie and Marie of parenting until parents don't know who Donnie and Marie are anymore. So
outdated ourselves.
We haven't come up with the equivalent yet.
I mean, let's go ahead and do that. Let's come up with the equivalent.
Okay.
Let's make it happen. So if Donnie and Marie was initially who you would have been when it comes to parenting conversations, who would it be now?
I have no idea. You're the one that brought this up. So
come on. Are there any
really
like
fun with
sibling?
y'all
Are there
together.
any like sibling bands or like like I mean, maybe even if you went like the Hanson siblings, even though
they don't want to be the Hansons.
What's that?
There's no sister.
I know, but if you added one, that's why I said siblings instead of brothers. Like, what if they have a sister that we don't even know about?
Okay. Maybe we should ask another question.
Okay, maybe not.
Okay.
Okay, so no, that was that.
This is gonna be so fun.
It is already so fun.
It was a good effort if you had like it
Well,
tucked in
but
your.
the whole point of my podcast is to not have anything tucked in.
Yeah.
So we're just,
You're
we're
right.
there.
You're doing great.
David, I mean, would you have anything to add to what Sissy has said about what you guys do?
Covered it really well.
Yeah.
I would only add to it that it has been a really neat gift as we've traveled to get to take this many decades of work and share that with parents.
Mm-hmm.
We've long said, like, the best stuff we know is just sitting with kids and families for all these decades.
Yeah.
And as grateful as we are for our training, that's the best stuff we know. And just to be with parents and say, here's what we've learned from a lot of years of sitting with kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we get to work with our dogs, which we all
Yes,
have in common.
you do.
Great
you
part of
guys,
what we do.
you sent, or Daystar sent a book with people, when we lost our dog, you guys sent our kids a book, our family a book.
Yes.
And everyone wrote it in the office. I literally still can't pick up the book. Like, I can't open it. Like, I will be in a puddle. Like, you guys honor dogs and just, actually, I don't know if I said this before, but you guys are the reason why we have a dog. Because a long time ago, 15 years ago, we were new to Nashville. Carlos was touring. We went to some touring speaking thing that you guys were doing for touring artists.
That Al Andrews did.
Yes.
I remember.
It was like in a church.
And in that,
I think we met y'all that night.
in the notes, you said, get a dog.
Wow.
And I was like, I really don't want a dog.
You
who
said
are some people?
But then, well, just because I had a touring husband and 3 littles at home. I couldn't imagine bringing a dog into the chaos, but it was the best thing ever.
Wow.
Yeah, so thanks.
Oh, that makes me so
Heather,
happy.
you should know we've decided that really may be our life's work. Like helping families get dogs.
Get
we
dogs.
hope we've helped some people along the way, but you cannot imagine how many parents have told us over the years, like, we got a dog because of the two of you.
Yes.
We adopted a dog because of the two of you. And we're so grateful for that.
So grateful.
What is it about a dog? Let's just go there.
I have heard so many kids over the years say things like, well, the person I talk to the most is my dog.
They say person.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
And I think things, I can think of one girl in particular who lost her dad, and she just, it was too hard to talk to anybody about it. And so literally she would sit on the floor with her dog and just talk and cry. And I would say, I want you to say reasons specifically for boys, but I think in this day and time when I really believe girls are meaner than they've ever been in 2023.
It's awful.
That to come in the door and having encountered all that in your school day and to walk in and have this dog that thinks you're the greatest thing on the planet.
Literally,
licks
they
all over
light
you.
up. Even if you just were so awful to them, they are so excited to see you.
Yes.
They're so full of life. Like you know how they say in parenting, like, make sure you light up your eyes when your kid walks in the room, but that's what the dog's doing, right? Like
the dog does it so you don't have to.
Hey, parents,
maybe
listen,
not,
you're off the hook.
Right,
Just get a dog.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that there is legit research that confirms, like,
Really?
when any one of us is petting a dog, like, it lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and it raises serotonin. And so years ago, I was one of our therapy dogs at Daystar, belongs to me, and we volunteered at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. And we were a part of the study that they did that found it was kids who'd been newly diagnosed with leukemia.
Wow.
And they studied over a period of time kids interacting with dogs and how it affected their white cell count. Like you all, that it changes us biologically in so many different ways. And so it's so fun to keep reading all the research that feels like it's just confirming everything we've known to be true, which is we're all kind of a better version of ourselves when we're around a dog.
I have 2 things.
I will let me go first, and then just so remember your 2 things. This is why I had you on as a podcast host, because first of all, I don't have to. I actually could walk out the room now. Heather could just take over, and I could tell she's already lining things up. But this is maybe where you're going. So when Sohaila was in Vanderbilt,
this is
hospital,
my story, not yours.
No, you're going to tell it. You're going to tell it. I'm setting you up. I'm putting it on T. So everyone knows. You can go back to. I can't remember. We'll put it in the show notes. The episode where Sohaila talks about her time at Vanderbilt for a month. But we were on the oncology floor because initially they thought that she had a mass in her chest, and so they put us there. Once we were there, and they found out it wasn't cancerous, they kept us there. But because we were on that floor, there were these therapy dogs. And I'll pass it to you now, babe. I won't say another
see
word.
how long in the story you
Okay, go
continue
ahead.
to
Go ahead.
So we were there, and it was probably like week 2. We had been there a while, tons of visitors and everything like that, which is great. I never left the hospital room. I was there with Sohaila the whole time. And there was one night she was having a really, really hard time. Like she couldn't breathe because nighttime was always worse. And she was in so much pain. Like when the nurses came in, like we didn't have any visitors at that time just because it was really bad. And there was a knock on the door and it was like, do you want to visit with the dog? And at first I said, no, like she can't, like she can't breathe. And then I'm like, oh no, because I'm like thinking that the dog is going to be like, oh, everything's not perfect in here, don't come in. But I'm like, oh no, this is actually the very time that the dog needs to come in. And so that dog came in. We literally wept. Like it just came up, and she's an animal person anyway. So it just distracted. It brought life. It brought joy. It literally, like, if I talk about it in detail, like I bawl every single time because those dogs, like we were at the,
Keep talking in detail. I'd love to hear.
Oh, okay. Well, we did a thing, at the women's prison here, and they had dogs. Like some prisoners were able to get dogs, and that was the same thing where like I just could weep at that details and the beauty of allowing I just knew what it did for us. And so it was just really, really, really sweet.
And
Can I tell my favorite dog story recently? Please. So when the Covenant shooting happened, one of the first staff members to go down, well, a couple of staff members went down immediately, but one of them was Katie, who took Pippa. Y'all know Pippa from Daystar.
Yeah.
And we just heard recently in a staff meeting that there were all the kids were gathered down in the basement of the reunification center.
This was the day of.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And the kids filed in and they were there. She was downstairs with Pippa and she was going from group to group. And there were so many kids who said, Daystar's here. There's Pippa.
Oh.
And when Melissa named Daystar, the name Daystar means Jesus.
I'm crying.
I know. I mean, when I heard that story, I immediately did too. I thought, oh gosh, that a little dog would represent Jesus to these kids sitting in this horrific experience is such a profound gift. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I add to that? Only that.
Go ahead, because we can't talk.
Get one.
As we've spent time at Daystar with so many of those families, one of my favorite stories, once the kids finally went back to school in their temporary space, I heard kid after kid after kid say, you can leave class anytime you need to and go pet a dog. They've had dogs on campus constantly. And the peace that I think that has given so many kids of knowing if I'm struggling during the day, I can leave at any point. And again, it's everything we're talking about. They change us.
They really do.
It's interesting just in the sense of like, I mean, obviously you guys see and hear just the heartbreak that is actually in a lot of homes, and yet the ability, that's why there's a gift of a dog, right? Like, because there could be heartbreak and whatever kind of trauma in the house, and yet this dog is solid and not a part of that. It's separate. Yeah. And so being able to, specifically talking about mental health, being able to have a space where there is peace and where there is not turmoil inside a home of chaos, whatever that chaos looks like. Like, I think that's, such a huge piece to why dogs are so important.
Me too. I had a family I worked with, and when they got divorced, the dog did visitation with the child because it was an only child, would go back and forth. And I think there you go. In the midst of chaos and a really hard scenario, the dog is the steadying factor in both spaces for this child.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
This week's episode of Human Hope is brought to you by a brand new partner of Human Hope, Shopify. Listen, a little while ago, I literally had no idea how to sell stuff on the internet besides courses, like products, because I didn't really have any. And my daughter was like, Dad, you need some merch. Why don't you sell some t-shirts? And I was like, okay, I don't know how. She's like, let me try to figure it out. So together, in 20 minutes, we had a shirt up on Shopify. That is why I'm so glad that I found Shopify. It's made it so much easier for me to have this side hustle, okay? Shopify is the commerce platform for revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur like I was or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel, okay? So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS system or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you are covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers, that's right, to buyers. Okay, so listen, a key moment in my business is when we launched my t-shirt with my dad on it. Shopify made it real. So listen, sign up for a $1 per month trial at shopify.com/humanhope, all lowercase, okay? Go to shopify.com/humanhope to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.com/humanhope. This week, Human Hope is also brought to you by Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Y'all listen, when you want to go have some self-improvement, you go to a therapist. If you want to have some self-improvement in your job, in your company, you go to Indeed. They will help improve your business because instead of spending hours on all these job sites looking for candidates with the right skills, yada, yada, Indeed has got you covered all in one single place. They streamline the hiring with these incredible tools that help you find matched candidates. Okay, so listen, with Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. Now, one of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring really easy. It actually helped me hire Whitney from Wisconsin. She uploaded her resume to Indeed. I also found my company through Indeed. So it's a great, great platform. Even better, Indeed is the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/humanhope. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/humanhope. Just go to Indeed.com/humanhope and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/humanhope. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. It's 2023. Parents, we've all gone through this collective trauma globally together the last 3 years. So, I like to tell people, hey, listen, give yourself a break. We've never done this before, right? You've never had to parent a child through pandemics or whatever. This is all new. But I'm assuming, and I didn't look at the data, but you guys probably have, that mental health crisis is growing increasingly. You said something to the effect of you believe girls are even meaner, and which is probably a result of them medicating, walking through this season or whatever. Let's maybe just kind of go super wide for a moment for all the parents that are listening, that are worried about their kids, that are worried about their, gosh, my 10-year-old or my 8-year-old or my 17-year-old, I'm worried about their mental health. Help them with their worry. What do they do? What are some steps they can take? Just a step that they can take. I think one step is better than no steps,
I would first say, Carlos, to everything you're saying, I don't think it was a surprise to any of us that during the pandemic, the U.S. Surgeon General declared youth mental health a state of emergency.
Wow.
Because we were seeing more kids than ever struggle before the pandemic. The numbers around anxiety that Sissy talks about were so high already, and all it did was accelerate everything. Everything that was hard got harder. And so I think the one upside of that, for all the hard, the good is I don't remember a time in history when we have been talking about mental health as much, and
with kids
that we've
especially.
never been paying as much attention to how kids are doing. And so to your question, I think we are all wanting to be thinking about one step, small steps that we can take on behalf of supporting ourselves
Yeah.
first
Yes.
and our kids second. We talk a whole lot about that. I would say that would be my first step
That's
to any
great.
parent
That's
listening
so
is
good.
Mm-hmm.
I got off a plane last night, and I'm thankful every time I get that reminder from flight attendants who say, put your mask on first so you can help the people around you.
Yeah.
And we forget that as parents. And so
That's so good.
first step
great.
I would say is making sure you have practices and strategies in place to care for yourself so that you can show up for the kids you love.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
you'd add to
I
that as
love
a
that.
next step.
Well, I love that, David. I think that's so true. And I think in this day and time, I would say too that we just want to stay as dialed in as we can. That we want to spend time with them, we want to have our eyes on them, and to feel like if in doubt at this point, I would say go ahead and call a counselor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because my favorite picture of how I think we can normalize that, I had a mom who came in and she said, my daughter said, why do we have to do this? And I said, my job as a parent is to build your team.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I have people on your physical health team that
Right.
are your doctors. We have people on your cognitive team, academic team, they're your teachers. Why would I not have someone on your
That's great.
emotional team?
Mhm.
And that's what counseling is.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are sitting with more parents than ever before who are saying, I just want another set of eyes.
Yeah.
This may be normal. This may be what adolescence looks like, because it certainly looks like depression in a lot of windows, and it's not, but it might be. And we're living in this place, as David said, that everything is on the rise. We're now looking at anxiety impacting 1 in 4 kids, girls twice as likely, 1 in 3 adolescents. And so it is so rampant. And there are so many things we can do to help kids.
Yeah.
And so just to have another set of eyes on, even if you only take your child a couple of times and the counselor says they're really okay.
Yeah.
I just think we can never fault on that side.
Right. Right. To
I-
remove the stigma.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. I was saying last week when we saw you got to meet my best friend, who
Yes.
I would say is, she's known my kids prior to my kids. So, so it, I said, you're our third mom in my girl's life. Like, it's me, Jacinda, and you, in regards to like the voice that they got to have. Cause we moved here when they were like 10. So their teenage years were equally involved. And so even if it's like obviously counseling at some degree, but just having other eyes and ears and influences of other wise people in your kid's life, I think is just so valuable for them, because there are things that my kids aren't going to come to me with. They're not, because it's usually about me.
No, it's never.
And so being able to have relationships for your kids, and that may at some point look like a counselor, and there are times you've walked my kids through some pretty dark stuff, and the beauty is that you get to see them on the other side too, right? Like they are thriving
absolutely.
and, like
Amazing people.
healed and all the things,
Oh.
like Lisiah witnessed a terrible accident. And like literally as we're driving my dad to the hospital, I'm calling David, what do I do? But, and obviously not everyone has access to you, but people have access to people like you.
Yes.
And it's just so important to build your team.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, with people that really can come into your family and help and team up with you.
And for y'all too. I mean, I think all
Absolutely.
either one of us have done over the years is say, you two are amazing.
Yeah.
Really. And I think to help parents trust their own intuition and to have somebody that reminds you you're doing a great job.
That
is
I
so
will
important.
echo that from the one that receives that from you too. Like the amount of encouragement that you guys say, you're doing great and you're not alone. Like that, like we come to you with something that we feel like is like life altering in our family. And you're like, yeah, like you're not alone.
Literally,
and just seeing
your
that,
eyes,
you're like, oh,
the
okay.
eyes of a counselor to a parent that are eyes that are just reassuring, like you're not alone. Is
yeah,
that is that's really big. And I think parents that are listening to the podcast right now, let's do boys for a second and girls for a second. Okay. Let's go boys. Let's go.
They're very different.
Yeah, they are. They're very different. And so, all of our kids, like, my kids have been on my podcast talking about Daystar. They're all very vocal about how much they love Daystar. But obviously, every kid is different. And I do believe that boys and girls are different when it comes to, dealing with things. For the parents of a young boy that just doesn't share his emotions, they may be thinking, does he have an emotion? Where is it? And then it may come out as anger. It may come out as rage. Talk to the parents of boys for a second, and how to help their boys navigate their emotions.
Yeah. I would first say, Carlos, to that great question, that 100% they have emotions, though they're not showing it. I watched you all just this weekend was finishing. Have you watched Welcome to Wrexham?
Yes. Oh, well, we haven't finished it.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
I won't give anything away.
Okay.
But there's this great and hilarious episode where they talk about the way men relate, and how they come together around sporting events, and how emotional they are in those moments. And they show all these clips of adult men like screaming, hugging, crying, jumping into each other's arms, like all these different things. And they're like, we're comical to act like men don't have emotion. Like, just watch them in the space.
That's awesome.
And so I think on that first. But if I go all the way back to the beginning of development, what I would say is, at 16-month well visits with a pediatrician, pediatricians would say girls on average are saying 100 words, boys are saying about 30.
Wow.
So right out of the gate, she has a larger general vocabulary, which makes sense that her emotional vocabulary would be larger as well. So we're going to have to labor longer to help him develop that.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around 9 to 10, boys begin to channel all primary emotions, fear, sadness, confusion, disappointment, into one emotion, and that's anger.
Wow.
And culturally, we support that. We say in a lot of different ways, it's okay for boys to be angry. It's not okay to be scared or sad. And so all of that is happening just in terms of his biology on the front side of development. And then we socialize in that direction when we're not aware. So one challenge I'd give any parent listening right now would be to say that research tells us that in conversations just around our tables when we're talking about our day, we are more likely to ask boys what they did, and we ask girls how they felt about what they did. And if we move beyond that, we ask boys then, well, what did you think about that? We ask, what did you do and what do you think? But we rarely get to, how did you feel about that event happening?
Wow.
Whereas with girls, we'll instinctively go there. So I think we're kind of furthering what's already in motion.
Yeah.
So
on accident,
absolutely not knowing. There's even research around kind of in the 2 to 4 space, how moms will, when they're not aware, sometimes work harder to control their son's emotional volatility and give girls more space to do that. And dads will kind of verbally roughhouse with boys and then be more tender with girls talking. And so there's just a lot we do when we're not aware, to your great point, that kind of furthers those things and makes the instinct that I think is already there for boys to move towards suppression instead of expression to just be in motion. And then I would just lastly say, when Sissy was talking about anxiety, the 1 in 4 stats, girls being twice as likely, what's interesting is that more boys get taken in for help, even though way more girls struggle. And we talk a lot about that difference, that a lot of girls become more perfectionistic and pleasing when they're anxious. And with boys, it comes out sideways more as anger more often.
So suddenly the parent is going to see that
absolutely.
As, this is way more shocking. We got to get help.
Yes,
absolutely.
And even reinforce the daughter for what's being fueled by anxiety.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he's struggling and it's kind of coming out sideways all over the place, and she's overperforming sometimes. And so that's a lot of what Sissy and I both think is part of why that stat is true, that more boys get taken in. And I would, just end by saying, I think anger is a primary presentation for both anxiety and depression with boys. We tend to miss depression with boys because we're thinking about how it more traditionally looks on adult females, which is sad, lethargic, I'm having trouble getting out of bed. And a lot of times with boys, it's that he's more irritable, angry, volatile. I had a mom years ago of a teenage boy say to me, it's like he wakes up every day with a low-grade chronic irritability, which is what I think depression can look like on an adolescent boy.
Wow.
So we got to lean in farther and look for more, because it won't always show up in the ways we're thinking.
That
with
is
boys, the struggle.
so helpful. Feelings I hear that sometimes, and I think Losiah may be the one that brought home. There was like different faces and one word. Like, or what are the feelings? What are some feelings that parents?
The feelings chart.
Maybe it was a feelings chart that parents can even in conversation with their kids help them. What are these feelings? What are they?
We are huge proponents of a feelings chart.
Yes, we are.
We have one you can download on our website. Okay. We take one every time we speak. RaisingBoysAndGirls.com. And we believe strongly in it. And I would even say, to the question you asked about what are some first steps, that would be a first step we both feel strongly about. Like, have it out on the ready. That I think reminds us to be folding in more of that language. Like, we laugh about when we teach, we'll often say, like, when you're asked about your day, don't say it was fine. Fine is an acronym for feelings in need of expression. That's what fine is. But go deeper. Say, like, you know what? I felt embarrassed. I had to give a presentation to the board and I didn't feel prepared. I felt sad. I think I said something that hurt a friend's feelings, and I want to circle back and check on that. Knowing that that's landing on the kids we love. And
absolutely.
I think, part of, there's a lot of reasons that I would say your son is such a rock star, but part of it is that he gets to sit front row and watch the primary male in his life, his dad, talk about his experience over and over. And that changes the game. When boys can see that on other males, okay, that's what it looks like. And guess what? When you're an adult man, you still feel scared sometimes. You still feel incompetent a lot. You still feel like everybody around you knows what they're doing and I don't. And so that changes the game in terms of naming those experiences and giving boys permission to feel.
That's good.
That's good. I love it. This is why you're here, both of you. This is amazing. Okay, we're moving to the girls.
Okay.
And your last book, there. First of all, I got to write a foreword for 2 books ago.
So honored.
For Sissy.
So honored.
So thank you. I felt like a rock star just for that.
Boy.
But talk to us. Where is Sissy right now? Where are your eyes when it comes to girls in 2023 and parents that are listening? Just lean into them right now. Like what do you feel like they need to hear about girls right now that they're raising?
Anxiety. That is definitely where my eyes are. And it is, interestingly, it has shifted. So the reason I wrote that book is I was evidently, I don't even remember this, but we wrote a book called Are My Kids on Track? I don't know how many years ago, where we talked about the 4 emotional and 4 social and 4 spiritual milestones all kids needed to reach. And I must have written something in there about the average age of onset for anxiety in girls was somewhere around 8.
Okay.
And our publisher came to me and said, hey, I read this. Would you write a book for 8-year-old girls about anxiety? And my first response was no. And then I came back and said, only if I can write one for parents too. Because of exactly what David said, because anxiety is something that doesn't just impact the one child in an isolated sense. It impacts the family. And so wrote Raising Worry-Free Girls, wrote Braver, Stronger, Smarter for elementary age girls. And then the pandemic hit. And then I immediately was most worried about adolescents. And so I wrote this book for teenage girls. Well, since then, I am sitting with more and more parents who are bringing in their anxious daughter. And I will sit with them and say, do you happen to have any family history for anxiety? And they'll say, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm anxious at all.
Right.
You know, when you're with someone that's really anxious, sometimes it kind of comes over in waves. You're like, and I'll think, oh no, I think there might be a little in your family. And so I have a book coming out in August called The Worry-Free Parent.
Let's go.
That is exactly meant to deal with what David talked about, the oxygen mask mentality, and what we know to be true, that really the best way to help your kids deal with their own anxiety is to deal with yours. And so anyway, just wanting to get as much helpful information as we can to parents, because the thing about anxiety in particular is the primary therapy modality we would use is called cognitive behavioral therapy, which y'all know this, but it's super practical. And so I wrote those books. David has some books for boys, Raising Emotionally Strong Boys and Strong and Smart, that are really meant to be kind of the first line of defense, to say, you don't have to go see a counselor first. Try these things at home. And if they move the needle, then you don't even have to do that at this point. But it's such practical things that we would know, like breathing and mindfulness, experiences, different things like that, games even, that we kind of fold into a child's practices. But that would certainly be where I've been most worried about girls. And perfectionism is on the rise, like we're talking about so much with girls too. that I've been really worried about. And so it just feels like we need to, not only we need to get tools in their hands, but I think we need to change their environments as much as we can
I
to
love that.
alleviate some of the pressures at home. And, I'm ready to go lobby at, I don't know where you even go lobby with the education system
Yeah.
to say it's too much. There's
Yeah,
just too much
it
right
is.
now in the
Wow.
lives of kids and
Wow.
girls. I think particular are taking it to heart. So
I love that you said that. And, so often people, because, Carlos and I had a really, we weren't going to make it in our marriage. And so many people ask us, how are your kids so great? And honestly, I can say because they watched us walk through a really hard time and they saw us do it well.
yes.
And they, they saw us get tools and so now, like, even today, Sayana's going to this like Liberty Prayer thing, cause she's like, oh, I'm coming up against some things. I'm actually going to take the initiative to go and take action. And so they're doing things. And I didn't tell her to do that, but she knows, oh, something's not right now. I need to take care of myself and I'm going to make an appointment, and we were the very thing that, somebody comes to me, oh, what did you do and this? And I said, I took care of myself. Like I did not care about our marriage. I cared about me. And that was the first step. And I love that you guys are saying that in regards to parents, like take care of yourself first, get the environment that the houses that the kids are in solid and whole, and take those actions, and they're watching and they're, and then when you become more peaceful, more, engaged in tools that are helping you in whatever circumstance you're in, that really actually is parenting them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's, you're not even doing anything other than doing for yourself, but they're watching.
They're watching.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We talk so much about John 16:33 about in this world we're going to have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. Partly because I think girls don't think they should experience trouble today, and social media is a piece of that. My life should be the highlight. And so for you all to have walked through trouble, for them to have watched it firsthand, and for you to wrestle with that and with each other and come out on the other side, helps them know every marriage is going to hit hard places.
Yep.
Helps them know I can encounter something hard and work through it. It's normal for me to fail. It's normal for me to struggle, and I'm not alone in it. I mean, y'all, not that you would have ever intentionally been teaching them those lessons in that time, but man, they got
looking
so
back
many
when
good
people ask me
things.
that, I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yes, and I think it's probably why your two girls are two of the most resilient girls I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
They are strong.
Yeah.
Because they've watched the two of you.
Yeah.
When I walked back in my front door, I noticed the little turquoise package that I know what is inside of it. It's my Hiya vitamins. I love taking Hiya vitamins. And I just think it's crazy that they're for kids and I love taking them. Why? Well, because they taste great. And also because I know that your kids, because my kids love them as well. Okay, so listen, typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise. I've talked about this before. 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and all kinds of other junk growing kids should never eat are inside of most vitamins for kids. That's why Hiya was created. It's a pediatrician-approved, super-powered, chewable vitamins. Okay, let me tell you what's inside this thing. Now, inside of it, there's a pressed blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and so many others to help support your kids' immunity, energy, brain function, mood, concentration, teeth, bones, and so much more. Listen, this is what you guys need. Get yourself some indeed. I love it. So this is what we've done. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. This is massive. I need everybody to do this right now. 50% off your first order. To claim the deal, just give it a shot. You got to go to hiyahealth.com/humanhope. That's hiyahealth.com/humanhope. This deal is not available on the regular website. You have to go to hiyahealth.com/humanhope and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. We have it feels like the sky is falling sometimes. If we look back and we look at the data and we look at the trends and school shootings and kids being scared to just go to school, like all it. Sometimes it can feel, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed with worry. This show is, I try towards the end of conversations, and sometimes it's hard in difficult conversations. I mean, I've talked about the death penalty. I've talked about a lot of heavy things on this show, but you are two of the most hopeful people that I just walking in a room, I feel hope with you.
Yeah.
Let's blow some air into the lungs, some hopeful air into the lungs of these parents that are listening right now. I say all the, actually I haven't said this in a while. I need to put it back in my talks. But when I first moved to Middle Tennessee, I developed asthma. I never had asthma my whole life. But I didn't know I had. Heather told me, I hear you breathing funny at night. Like, you sound like Darth Vader. I was like, what? I feel fine. Like I was like, but fine, I'll go to an allergist. I go to the allergist and I'm like, hey, my wife says that I'm not breathing well, but I'm exercising. I feel fine. He's like, okay, well, let's just check. So he had me blow into a tube or into some machine or something. And he's like, you're only using 60% of your lung capacity. I was like, what? And then he gave me an inhaler. I've never taken an inhaler. I took a puff and my lungs in 2 seconds went from breathing at 60% to 100%. And when I felt that rush of air, I didn't know that I wasn't breathing. So it's like it was the slow, the pollen in the middle slow, and so I'd gotten used to breathing at 60%. I didn't know, and I feel like a lot of parents that are listening to this, they don't even know they're not breathing at 100%. They don't even know their kids aren't breathing at that they're breathing at 60%. I feel like what you have helped us do is you're our inhaler. like I feel like when I have a conversation with you, I'm like,
a little Sissy
this is what it feels like to breathe at 100%. Like this is it. Let's give them an inhaler hit. Let's give them some hope. Is the data is showing us this is getting worse and worse and worse. What's some hope they can take away from this conversation?
Love that.
Me too.
And I want to first say, you two are putting so much hope out in the world.
Yes, you are.
Goodness, it is a joy to know you both. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Carlos, when you were asking that, I was thinking just for myself as a person, like when I start to slide into that belief that the sky is falling, which any of us could do on any given day, to think strategically, okay, what are you doing or not doing that you could be doing that would shift you out of that? And I think of two things. I think about how often we have said to parents, particularly with anxious kids, like, don't read so much news. Like you need to set a limit and then turn it off. And then I've been guilty. Like I have had to say to myself, why are you still reading? Why is this the last thing you're reading before you go to bed instead of something else? And when I think about that, I put this chapter in my last book called Upward and Outward that I cannot take credit for. I learned this. My kids all ran cross country in school, and my daughter came home one time when she was in high school and said, we had this just brutal uphill practice today, and my coach challenged us, when you are at the steepest part, the most out of breath, the most thinking, I am never going to get to the top of this. She's like, I want you to look up, identify one person on your team, and start cheering for them.
Wow.
And I locked into that wisdom and thought, that's amazing. And what she said next, I loved even more. She was like, it's not going to make it less painful. You will still have the same distance to get to the top of the hill, all those things, but your attention will shift. You cannot be as miserable as you were in that moment as you will be cheering. And so I have thought about that so often. And my daughter was like, it really did change all of us. Like instead of just, this is miserable, it's like, you got this, Brooke. You got it. Like this screaming for somebody else.
I love that.
And it feels so in keeping with that wisdom we all talk about, Mr. Rogers' mother, of just saying, look for the helpers. Like, are we looking up? Are we looking out as a way to shift where we are? That I think is a practice. Like,
that's great.
I talk about in the book, like, think your way into a new way of living. You live your way into a new way of thinking. Like
Yeah.
I have to do things.
Yeah.
I have to start cheering for other people that
Yeah.
move me in that direction. I have to look for the helpers, find them,
Mm.
identify
Yeah.
them, and lock into that would be
So
something
good.
I would say.
Thank you, David.
It's really great.
I would add that I think when I feel most like the sky's falling,
Yeah.
I think I start there and I always turn inward.
Okay.
That it quickly becomes that I'm falling.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just the sky. And I can get much more down about myself than
Yeah.
I can the sky. And we went to a conference our staff did a couple years ago. I'll never forget. Dan Allender taught
Yes.
a conference, and he said something I've never heard anybody say to this degree. And he said, your children are one of the only relationships that you don't get to pick.
Mm.
Pick your spouse, you pick
Yeah.
your friends, but you don't get to pick who each of your kids
Yeah.
are, which said to me, somebody a whole lot smarter than any of us picked Josiah
Yes.
and Sayana and
Yeah.
Sohaila for the two of you, and
Yeah.
knew that you two were who those three kids needed.
Yes.
And that those three kids were who you needed.
Right.
And we talk often about how in all these years of counseling kids, we believe every parent has one child who pushes their buttons the most. And it's often the oldest of their same gender or the one who's most like them. And so even for that child,
Mm.
God still picked you.
Yes.
And so thinking about in those moments where you feel like the sky's falling, I'm falling, you're right where you're supposed to be. You're
Yeah.
who you're supposed to be. And you have with God everything you need
Yes.
to lead these kids, to love these kids as he has already equipped you to do.
Yeah. Oh. Do we have 2 hours? Can we just keep
Yeah.
going? This
Can
is
we just
this
hang
has
out with
been
y'all all
amazing.
day?
Please.
You two are. There's a sign hanging above you with my face blurred out on it, but it says human hope,
Mm,
and you're literally the definition of that.
thank you,
So
guys.
thank you. You've been the definition of
Thank
that
you.
for our kids, our family,
Yeah.
and so many other people. And honestly, I just, don't mind me if I get a little charismatic here for a moment, but I Pentecostal. I don't know what you want to call it, but I literally feel like I see in front of me like you're on this freeway, both of you riding in your little boys and girls car, and the freeway, like you're leading. You see, I just see you have the cop car that kind of goes like this.
Mhm.
I feel like you're helping everybody like get in this direction. Like, okay, slow down, everyone relax, because there's trauma ahead. There's stuff in front of us. And what I saw just as you were both sharing that at the end is, when the cop car gets off the freeway and everybody just gets to go. And that's what I feel like you've been gifted to do. And so I just want to say thank you. And
That's beautiful.
I love you both.
Yes,
for
we
being
love
with
you
us.
both very
Yeah.
much.
Y'all are the best.
Thanks for being our lifeline.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it
I
is
will
a
say our
privilege.
lifeline is here, but I talked to a high school friend out in California, and she is like, I lost my mind when I heard that you were on David and Sissy's podcast. But she had no connection that we would know you. She just didn't know
Aw.
that because we just pop in every few years. And literally, you're the lifeline, not only, yes, personally, because we're in Nashville, but to people
Yeah.
all over.
Yeah.
And I know
Y'all
you
were the
guys
first
met-
interview we ever did.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
Isn't
that.
that fun?
First.
I know.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
We set
I
the
like
bar
being number
so
one,
high.
So high.
Number
Yep.
one.
First interview. Awesome. Love you guys.
Awesome.
We
Love
love
you
you
too.
too.